Hi guys, welcome back to the home and homestead. Today we'll be doing some food preservation. In particular, we will be doing some water bath canning. And this is part 4 of a 4-part spring canning series, where we're doing some interesting flavor pairings with some common spring harvest produce that you might find in your garden, farmer's market, at the grocery store, trying out some new recipes this year. And today we'll be doing strawberry Serrano jam. So we're combining strawberries and Serrano peppers to create a jam. So follow along and see how we do this water bath method of canning for making this sweet and spicy jam. So whenever I do my canning, I like to have all my canning jars laid out, and I have a stock pot here with some water and a little riser plate for the jars to sit on, and I bring the jars I'm going to be using up to temperature in the warm water so that when the hot jam is placed in them, it helps prevent the occurrence of breaking the jar. Here we have an 8.5 quart Dutch oven that I use for cooking the ingredients that I'll be using in the water bath canning today. And here's my water bath canner on an electric separate burner. We have a glass stove top, and I just feel more comfortable canning with the water bath canner on a separate burner. I can link in the description box below which one this is. We've been using this for a number of years now, and it works very well. And here's our water bath canner and a laser thermometer that helps to instantly read the water temperature inside of the canner. I also like to set up all the different ingredients that we have. So the acid today we'll be using is a lemon juice, my measuring cups, measuring spoons, pectin, sugar. There's a canning ladle and a little silicone hot pad for holding the jars while I'm filling them, and a canning funnel. Okay, so first we will get the strawberries and the peppers. The recipe calls for 1 to 2. I put 3 in. We like things a little spicier. If you don't like a spicy jam, you can certainly leave out the peppers and just make a strawberry jam. There's some nice recipes out there. The base recipe is probably similar to what I'm doing today. So you have the strawberries, the peppers, and we'll do a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. That's the acid that we'll be using in this recipe today. I use Santa Cruz Organic Pure Lemon Juice. It seems to work very well. So we'll get these cooking. When I work with strawberries, I like to use a potato masher to kind of smush them down a little more as they get cooking, help them along to release their juices. So once these cook a little further, I'll get the potato masher and do that today. Then we'll let them come up to a boil before we add the pectin. Okay, so I've mashed down the strawberries a little bit with the potato masher, and they have come to a boil. I like larger chunks of strawberry, and this will continue to cook down. But in the meantime, let's add the pectin. So I have classic pectin here today, and if you use the boxed pectin, you just use 1 box, and it says on the back here, 6 tablespoons of this pectin equals 1 box of pectin. So we'll do 6 tablespoons today. And we'll stir this in until it's dissolved. And then we'll add the sugar. This calls for 6 cups of sugar. So here's 1 cup. Get this stirred in. Let's slow it down a little bit here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like these canisters. They have a little snap top and it works well, and the measuring cups can fit in here nicely. I can link these below in the description box if you'd like them for your pantry as well. They refill really nicely. Also, just dump the sugar or flour or whatever right from the bag into those canisters. So we'll stir the sugar in, and then we'll bring this back up to a full boil again. Okay, I think the sugar is nice and dissolved, so let's bring this up to a boil. It usually takes a few minutes to bring it up to a boil again, and once it reaches that point when you try to mix it and it still stays boiling a little bit, then you know you've reached that point, and you'll do that for about 5 minutes, and that'll help to thicken up that jam so that it'll be to the spreadable state once it's cooled and after it's processed. So we'll let this come up to a boil. Alright, so this has been boiling for about 5 minutes. We have a little bit of foam on top, but not too bad. This can usually be stirred down most of the way. Not too concerned about that. And we'll get this into the jars. So I have jars off to the side in the stock pot here that I just have on a low setting to keep the jars warm. We'll go to about a 1/2 inch headspace. We have nice big chunks of strawberries, the Serrano Peppers, adding a little touch of color and green to it. Add a little more to that first jar here. I like to do little smaller jars as well. These are great to just give a little sampling to somebody. You'll bring as a hostess gift or a contribution to a dinner party. Maybe you're bringing a cheese tray or an appetizer. Or if you're going for brunch to somebody's house, you can bring this, or a homemade jam or something, you know, of any flavor really. And the size is nice. It's not too big, but it's enough to get a nice taste of what you made. It's a really nice combination of sweet and heat. It's quite tasty. And it isn't overly hot. Sometimes as things sit and meld as they, sit on the shelf, the flavors can come out more, but very pleased with this new recipe. We'll have to do this one again. All right, there's a little bit left here, so I'll probably put that into a dish so as not to waste it. My husband can try it when he gets home today. Okay, back to these jars that we're getting processed. So now I'll take a paper towel and moisten it, and I'll wipe off the rims for any sticky residue that might be on there. And that just helps the lids to have a nice seal onto the jar. Some people like to use white vinegar. I find that water on a paper towel works perfectly fine. And jams can be real sticky. So you just wipe them to a nice, shiny, clear rim. Alright, so we'll get the lids and rings on. You just place the lid, then just put the ring on finger tight. The ring is pretty much just kind of holding the lid in place while it will be water bath processed. And then once that is completed, the lid will suction down and seal. And at that point, the ring will be real loose and can be easily removed. Okay. The lid on and the ring. Alright, so we'll get these into the water bath canner. Here's the water bath canner. We'll remove the lid. I'll use my little laser to check the temperature. It's good. We'll get these jars in here. When you fill your water bath canner with water, just remember you're going to be putting jars in there that will displace the water, so don't overfill it. But what you want is for once the jars are placed in there, that the lids are completely covered with water. Usually the rule of thumb is 1 inch or 2 above the cover or the lid. There we go. So we got them all in there. We'll put the cover back on. We'll process these. For us, it's 15 minutes. Set my timer. And that all depends on your altitude. All of the canning cookbooks, guides, they all have a little table or description where it tells you based on your altitude. But here it is on the Ball Blue Book, the altitude chart. So for water or boiling water method or water bath method, based on your altitude, this is how many minutes you should process. And then also for pressure canning. So your altitude in feet, the gauge, and then the gauge dial settings. So this is handy to have, you know, a cookbook or a manual or something that has that information for you. Our altitude, it's 15 minutes. So let's process these, and when they're all finished, we'll move on to the next step. All right, so the strawberry serrano jam is finished processing, so we'll take the lid off here, and we'll let this sit for about 5 minutes in the water bath canner. Then we'll transfer it over to the cooling and drying pad area. The time it takes to process usually works out perfectly to kind of clean up the kitchen, you know, wash any dishes or pans or utensils, maybe prep if you're doing additional batches or additional canning items. It'll give you time to prep that next item so it's nice and freshly ready to go. So that's what I did. I kind of cleaned up the kitchen, and so now we'll get the jars over to the cooling and drying area. What I like to do is I use the jar lifter, obviously, and I use a little towel to catch the water dripping on my way over, place where they need to rest for 12 to 24 hours, at which point hopefully by then they've all sealed and we've heard the nice ping, and then by that point these rings will be loose and I can remove them, and then I just store them with the sealed lids on. And I can add any labels or write on the top with Sharpies what it is and the date that it was canned, and they'll be ready to go. We were able to get 4 half-pint jars, and let's see how many quarter-pint, 2, 4, 6, 7. You just heard that little ping. That was the noise of a jar sealing. We have nearly a dozen jars of jam just from some strawberries and some peppers that we grew in our garden. There goes another one. It's a nice sound to hear when you're canning. And there we go. Let's take a closer look at the finished product here. Okay, so here's the finished product of the strawberry serrano jam. It was combining strawberries and serrano peppers to give a nice sweet, spicy jam. So this will be good hopefully on sandwiches or with crackers and cheese, maybe a cheese board, or maybe to bring as a fun jam to a brunch gathering or as a hostess gift. This is part 4 of a 4-part canning series using different and fun flavor combinations with some common spring produce items, things that are usually in season this time of year, but certainly any of the recipes that I did in this 4-part series can be done any time of year, especially if you freeze and preserve your own produce, then you'll have it on hand whenever the urge moves you. If you are interested in other canning videos, I have a food preservation playlist. You can check out videos on food preservation, canning, dehydrating, pressure canning. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Take care.